Order. And actually what we're going to do this evening is the first item on the agenda is we're going to be taking a tour of this building. So we'll come back here at the end of the tour, probably around 7 o'clock to pick up the meeting as we normally would. So let's start our tour.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to bring us back into order. We just finished our tour of the building. And please join me for a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gary will do the chief right now. It's really unfortunate that we have to have Chief Bradley back here again tonight. So, Dr. Maestas.
Yes, members of the school committee and general public, as Dr. Sorensen said, we love the opportunity to talk to Chief Bradley, but not under these circumstances. We had an unfortunate situation here over the weekend, Friday night actually. We did a shutdown at 9 p.m. on Friday evening to tie in the solar project into the panel here, and it landed up being that we had a kiln that was powering down, and there was two hot kilns in our kiln room in the second floor. And when the power shut down, the exhaust fans that actually dissipate the heat from the kilns turned off with the power shutdown, which really allowed a high degree of heat to build up in that room, causing the sprinkler head, as we know, when they reach certain degrees. In this case, it was 165 degrees, I believe. When it reached 165 degrees in that room, the sprinkler head let go. That room is in between two classrooms, and it's pretty much isolated. And that room was, accumulating water, and it got to a point where it started leaking out. It was very difficult to find because there was no water that was really evident. You would think that much water would be, going into the hallways and so on, but that room held quite a bit of water until our custodial staff that was on site, they were here from the beginning because they were here for the shutdown to monitor things as things were moving forward. And sure enough, we had almost the same scenario where the sprinkler let go, causing a great deal of water to flow. Pretty much after the alarm was signaled here at the building, minutes later the fire department came and we were able to isolate the issues. But as we sit here today, we have some more remediation to do. No fire. This is all water damage. Thank goodness the system did work, and I think it was an unfortunate test of the system. But as you can see, things were damaged. So tonight, Chief Bradley is here to give his account of the evening and kind of let you know where things are today. And but I, just grateful that we had staff on duty and the fire department's able to tie in directly with our system here, which alerted them of the alarm, and they were here very quickly. So Chief, if you wouldn't mind just maybe going over some things.
Chief, in your comments, the public doesn't understand. We say room. The public thinks we're talking about a classroom, so you want to clarify that as you
Sure.
talk. Okay.
As Dr. Maestas said, that the alarm system in the building, which is a radio master box, not only tells us that there's an alarm in the building, but kind of gives us an idea of what's an alarm, whether it's a pull station, a heat detector, a smoke detector, and eventually we'll narrow down the area of where that alarm's coming from, except for the case of a sprinkler head. A sprinkler head is not an electronic device that can send a signal that says I'm located here. All we know is that it's on one of the branches of the system, and it'll tell us which branch. And it eventually told us that it was in that second floor tech classroom area. And the crews from the fire department, as well as the custodial staff that was on duty, started walking through the building and actually checking room to room. The rooms are closed up and locked for the night, so we didn't break anything. We used the keys that are provided and got into each room. And eventually one of the custodians thought he had smelled some smoke. It was probably steam. And in the back of this classroom, there's a room that's probably about 10 by 8. It would almost be like a closet, but really not. And then that houses 2 kilns for ceramic work, in order to bake the ceramics. Both of those kilns had been running, and I think they can deliver up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on what type of ceramics and what type of finish they're looking for. And I'm not sure what it was set at. I'm sure that the teachers know what they set it for when they put the work in there for the students. It reached 165 degrees in that room. The sprinkler head set for that so that we wouldn't have a fire. Had the sprinkler head not gone off, you probably would have had some scorching and maybe even a fire that started. I know that you saw a lot of damage, but most of that can be replaced and a lot of it dried out. Had there been a fire, we can't unburn any material that got caught in the fire. And the sprinkler head will use a lot less water than the firefighters would have to use if they came in with their fire hoses and fire lines. So the original alarm that we received from the box at probably the same time it tripped the alarm in here was at 22:43. So that's almost 11:15. It's the code for the alarm systems requires that once a water flow has been detected, it must trip the alarm within 90 seconds. So in this case, when we did the testing here, we were running between 30 seconds and 60 seconds, well within the alarm time. So it's probably running for about a minute before it trips the alarm. The system comes into us. They respond. We're on scene at 22:51, which is about 10 minutes of 11. Meet with the custodial staff, who already said that we got the alarm. We went over to one of the remote panels. We saw what it told us, what flow. We've looked at that area. We can find nothing. So they started going room by room. And as I say, finally, one of the custodians thought he got some smoke. It was some steam. It was in a ceramics classroom. He went to the back. He could feel the heat getting worse and worse. Notified us on the radio. The crews met him. They had to push the door open because the water was already a little over knee-high in that room. And of course, then there was a wave of water that came out. The sprinklers, from what I can figure out, ran for about 38 minutes. From the time it actually popped the head, notification, we arrived on scene, and we were able to find the room where the problem was, and then get back to the sprinkler control room. Another crew goes to the sprinkler control room and shut down the system. And again, to speed it up, we shut down the whole system, completely drained the building so that it wouldn't have residual leaking on the second floor. The biggest concern was the rooms underneath. We were starting to lose some ceiling tiles and water, but there were electricians working in the electrical room that was nearby on the first floor, making that connection to the solar panels, and it was imperative that no water get into that room so they could finish their work and get the school back up. So luckily, as you said, you had extra custodians on that night and people that are really familiar with the system, and they were able to get the sprinklers back together for us, get the alarms back, and they were able to keep the water away from that room. We didn't find any fire at all in the room. It just reached temperature. It made the sprinkler head go off. As I said, had it kept going, it probably would have been some type of combustible, because just the walls alone would be enough to have some type of a fire. There's probably a number of things that we can look at. Both schools, north and south, have the same type of ceramic kilns in the rooms, similar rooms. In the very beginning in north, we get a call one night from the janitors about 9 o'clock at night, and they thought they smelled something burning in the building. And we walked around, and we eventually, between the firefighters and the custodians, found that it was one of the kilns working. And it didn't have a ventilation system at the time. The engineers and the architect, both following recommendations from the manufacturer, didn't require it, but they have added it. In this case, it had the added ventilation in it. However, it's not an emergency generator really in the building, you're a standby generator, so it doesn't run every piece of electrical equipment in the building. It'll run the lights out in the hallways in certain areas so that you can continue to function safely, but the classroom lights go off. The ventilation system that was in that room was connected to the circuit that was not powered by the generator when it came on, so that the heat built up in that room over a period of time. You figure the power went off at 9 o'clock and it was 11:15 before we got to that point.
Great report. Committee members, questions for the chief or Ms. Badger?
We've seen how these boxes work, and they work really effectively. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we have all but 2 of our schools that have these boxes at South Middle and South Elementary, correct?
That's correct. South Middle and South Elementary, right now, are strictly on a central station alarm, where
Okay.
if the system goes into alarm, it notifies the central station, which then makes a phone call to us. We did have an occurrence about a year ago with South Elementary where we got a call from the school, and they were very upset. All the kids, it was fairly cool out, and the staff had evacuated the children, are outside, and 18 minutes had gone by, and they called and said, "Why aren't you here?" We immediately responded, went down and found the problem and got it back together. But speaking with the alarm company, there was just an overload of calls at that particular time, and somehow that particular call to them got missed and didn't get relayed to us. So having these boxes makes a big difference. That would have added another 18 minutes on to anything that went on here. I know it's expensive. I think both of those have had some work done to them, so the alarm systems are fairly new, and they probably can be hooked up to a radio box system so that we can eliminate any of that ever happening again.
How much are the boxes?
I think by the time you install them, they're a little over $8,000.
Okay. Well, we see kind of what they do here.
Dr. Mayes?
Yeah, at our safety committee meeting this week, last week actually, the fire department representative Greg Kane was at our meeting, and he did, based on what happened at North, he did suggest that we want to look at that. So I think that's something that we'll take a look at. I think based on the experience that we have with North and South, the response time and the specificity of information that they have is really, I think it's vital. And our guys are familiar with the technology, so I think it's just another level of coverage.
Chief, were you thinking about the possibility that perhaps the ventilation system should be on the generator in the kiln room?
Well, at first I did, but later on that night, the electrical inspector was coming here anyway to do the inspection of the solar hookup. And I had changed my thought on that and talked with him about it. I believe that we should have some kind of an interlock on that ventilation system, so that for some reason, if that ventilation system doesn't work, a relay would drop out the power to both kilns and automatically turn the power off to them and cause some type of supervisory alarm to go off. And the reason I say that is the ventilation system is not a big, robust system like you see on the ceiling. It's similar to what you see on a direct vent if you had a hot water heater or a gas or propane heater at your home, where a fan must come on to exhaust the carbon monoxide. And if it doesn't, then the heater won't run. Something similar to that in all 4 locations, and that would just require some electrical work with a relay, and like I said, probably a supervisory alarm that it hasn't worked. Because someday, something easy, crazy could happen where they're cleaning the room and they accidentally unplugged or got hooked on a cleaning machine and unplugged that ventilation system. Or the motor just gets to the end of its lifestyle and fails. Maybe another thing that we thought about is some type of indicator lamp that's by the door in the classroom that would, for 2 things. One, would notify the teacher when they're leaving, the kiln's on, did you mean it to be on? And also, as the custodial staff is in the building at night and after hours, they would see the light and know that there was a kiln working. It'd be just another level of awareness that could be added to the...
Okay, all right, I appreciate that. Thank you. Anything else? Chief Bradley, thank you very much for coming in this evening.
Thank you, Chief.
Hopefully I'll see you for a while.
Around town, yeah. All right.
Is there anybody attending tonight's meeting who isn't already on the agenda who would like to address the school committee? Okay, I'm going to move to the next agenda item, Plymouth North High School Ed.
Thank you.
I understand you went to the other building. Sorry we
I
didn't
did.
inform you.
That's okay.
Thanks,
It was funny. There was another event happening here. I was like, there's so many people, but just not the small group I'm looking for. So final exams will begin Monday, today, June 18th, and they will also be on Tuesday, June 19th, which are full days of school, Monday, June 20th, and Thursday, June 21st, and Friday, June 22nd. June 22nd are early dismissal days at 11:05, and the last day of school is Friday, June 22nd. Take advantage of the reduced transportation rate. Please have your application and payment into the main office before the end of June. Transportation applications must be turned in for all students regardless of travel mode. Congratulations to the following track athletes for being named Patriot League All-Stars: Ray Silva, Angelo Monsini, Brian Ryder, Zach Greeley, Jake Dwyer, Jeff Yang, and Jimmy Riley. The last day of food services will be Tuesday, June 21st, and the last day for lunch will be Tuesday, June 19th. Fall dance tryouts will take place on June 18th through June 21st from 2:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. in the PNHS Gymnasium. All students interested in joining should attend tryouts. Fall cheer tryouts will take place on June 18th through June 20th from 4:15 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. in the PNHS Gymnasium. All students interested in joining should attend the tryouts. 166 awards were given to recognize freshmen, sophomores, and juniors for their academic, vocational, civic, and athletic achievements this year. Students also received book awards from colleges and universities across the country. Teachers, counselors, and department heads, the principal and the assistant principals read names and handed out awards. It was a fantastic evening celebrating some of our underclassmen and their successes this year. Congratulations to all for their awards. On Friday, June 15th, the members of Student Council want to show their appreciation to our bus drivers, custodians, and cafeteria workers. Members of the Student Council provide coffee and treats as a way of showing appreciation for all those staff members and for all that they do for our school community. Thank you for all your hard work and dedication to our students. We'd like to wish everyone a very happy, fun, and safe summer recess.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
No problem.
I was talking to some of your colleagues today, some of your peers, and was reminding them that if we didn't have so many snow days, you'd be off already.
Oh, I've thought of that.
Can you remind them next year
Yeah.
when they're bothering me?
I will.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Ed.
Well, he doesn't care.
I know. Next year, I'm like, bring on the snow.
That's right, the seniors don't have to make them up, that's right, yeah. Yeah. Conflict of interest there, Dr. Mayastis.
Yeah. Disqualified.
Okay, old business. Is there anything to be raised in terms of our old business list? Okay. Moving to new business, committee members with new business. Anything from the committee members with new business? Okay. Reports and proposals from our superintendent, Dr. Mayastis.
Yes, I have a few things to report on this evening. As you heard from Chief Bradley, we did have an issue here on Friday, but I'd like to thank our custodial staff and the administrative staff, Mr. Hanna. I think Mr. Hanna worked most of Saturday, all day yesterday. Ms. Fry was helping, just trying to get everything up and running. Finals started this morning, and I was here at 7:30, and until it was like clockwork. I mean, there was a schedule, and the kids came in, they know where to go, and, you know, to shut part of a building down and to actually pick the pieces up, they deserve a lot of credit and a great deal of ownership on the administrative team to actually get this building up and running, custodial staff, just to make sure that everything was available. And they did a fantastic job. So difficult circumstances, but it was a test of even that system of operation. So they did a fine job. I want to bring up information regarding the alternative school. I know we've had discussions with the school committee regarding the alternative program moving over to Oak Street, and there is some level of dialogue that's going to take place with the community. We're going to invite members of Precinct 3. We're also going to invite members of the Oak Street community. The director, Avatable, is here tonight, but he's going to also be sponsoring two open house, not open houses, but informational nights at Plymouth North High School on the 26th at 6 p.m. and on the 27th at 9 a.m. Try to have differentiated times to be able to meet with people that might have questions regarding the alternative program. And then once the program is open, do an open house so they can actually see the program, what it looks like. I know Director Avatable has had opportunities to talk with one of the members of the community that had some concerns about the program, and that was a healthy conversation. And we look forward to just sharing information about our students and exactly the kind of program that we run. I think we're looking forward to the opportunity just to embrace the community and see if there's any way we can address any concerns they have moving forward. So Those the evening meeting and the daytime meeting were planned purposely to give people an opportunity to attend a morning or an evening one, depending on what their schedule would allow. And then if that doesn't work, we're able to reach out to other people, have phone calls, or even face-to-face meetings if that's possible. So with that said, that is something that's taking place. Letters will go out to Precinct 3 members as well as members of that particular street to invite them to be there. School committee is more than welcome. We'll also invite members of the Board of Selectmen if they want to come. But I think that'll be a great opportunity for people to learn more about what our plans are, what the plan is, and the future of that program. Tomorrow night, I will be presenting at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. 2 items. One, the discussion on the buildings, square footage, condition of buildings, any upgrades that we've made to our buildings. We're going to give all that information. We have the opportunity to also share the audit that was done by the Massachusetts School Building Authority, which they have done inspections of all our schools, and they have a very, very detailed plan of every single one of our buildings. That information has been sent to the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Costin and I will be there. Mr. Montron was released today from the hospital, and he will not be able to attend the meeting. But I told him that I would attend and present the information, as well as Mr. Costin will be there with for support in that realm. And I will also be speaking to the Board of Selectmen about the discussion that we had last school committee meeting regarding the MASC support for the foundation budget review. The following, the Tuesday after our last school committee meeting, I sent Melissa Aregi a letter from me indicating that the school committee would like to entertain some support for the foundation position that MASC was providing. So that letter was presented that evening to the Board of Selectmen, and they asked if I would come and explain exactly what it was, and then they would discuss it. So tomorrow night I will be actually doing that on behalf of the school committee. We'll do the building discussion, and then we'll talk about the foundation formula information that you all had taken action on and had requested the Board of Selectmen to take action on. So perhaps they'll take action tomorrow night. I will provide every bit of information that I can regarding that proposal, and we'll see how things go. As Eddie indicated, this is our last week of school. Great deal of activities. I think a lot of people are looking forward to Friday. We'll be looking forward to getting this building back in shape, so that'll happen. If it was going to happen this week, was probably a good week for it to happen. The last item I have to report is the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, along with an organization company called Microbit. They had a challenge for superintendents throughout the Commonwealth to submit an end-of-year message with a coding program. And the winner of the challenge actually was, you were able to win training and curriculum for all your elementary schools. I don't think they knew that Plymouth would win, but we won, and we got a lot of programming, coding equipment, and training for every elementary technology specialist in the district to get trained over the summer. So they offered and we won it, so that's
Excellent.
good. And I want to thank Emily and our technology staff for helping me to send the right message, so it worked. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you for that report. Committee members with questions to Dr. Maestas following his report. Ms. Badger.
Where is that meeting for the Alternative School Information Center?
North High School, and it'll be in the library.
Okay, thank you.
First one's in the library, and the second meeting will be in the
Small lecture hall.
Yeah, I'm really glad about reaching out to the community and to the precinct, because there have been several emails that have gone back and forth, and I don't know if the committee, I got a letter in the mail, I was CC'd a letter. Did the committee members get a letter from a member of Precinct 3? Okay, I came in today's mail, I'm not sure I have it with me, but,
I haven't been home yet,
okay.
though. I thought that,
Ms. Burgess?
that the Summer Street was the divider and one side was Precinct 3, but the second side where Oak Street was Precinct 2, because the people on that side of the Summer Street do vote in precinct 2.
Yeah, and Ms. Burgess, I think the reason why the invite for precinct 3 was the originator of the letter. There were members from precinct 3 were concerned about not having information about it.
Yeah, because the people from precinct 2 would be more
Yeah,
directly,
well, and
Involved.
everyone on the street that lives in proximity,
they know about it.
they will know about it. Okay?
They'll know about it, yeah. okay.
Dr. Masters, this letter that I referenced a second ago was sent to you, and it said CC School Committee, but apparently I'm the only one who received it from the school
Okay.
committee. So I think we'll
We'll get a copy
make
for
copies of this and get it to
Yeah.
the committee members.
We'll get to you tomorrow.
Okay?
Thank you. And that's all I have, Dr. Sorensen.
Okay, thank you very much. Correspondence, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you. We have two pieces of correspondence tonight. They are thank you letters to Plymouth Community Intermediate School. The first is from Mass General Hospital Substance Use Disorder Bridge Clinic for the donation of multiple items of clothing in support of the clinic's ability to provide support to patients in any stage of addiction. The second letter is from the Executive Director of NEEDS, the National Education for Assistance Dog Services Organization that assists in training and placement of service dogs. PCIS raised the donated funds in support of the PCIS teacher whose service dog will help students at PCIS.
Okay, thank you for the report on the correspondence. The next item on our agenda is an overnight field trip, Dr. Masters.
Yes, tonight we have an overnight field trip, international field trip, and this is a high school trip. We have not done a high school trip to Plymouth, UK, and this is an opportunity a little bit different than we've done in the past. This is really focusing on a two-pronged approach. One, we've had the opportunity to have teachers do some professional development with staff in the United Kingdom, Plymouth, England. We also had Mr. Grossman work with some teachers there regarding professional development and training for their staff, and through Mr. Capel and discussions with our colleagues in Plymouth, England, there's a possibility of our students traveling to Plymouth, England to perform a cappella, but also to work with kids in Plymouth, England on a cappella style music and the development of their programs. And it would be, I'm not sure if they have a cappella groups there, but I think it is their desire to continue to build and actually have a program like what we have here. So there's some level of a learning module that they'd like to present. And I will turn it over to Mr. Capel and Mr. Grossman because they have more information than I do. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Dr. Maestas. Thank you, committee members. The irony of me being here tonight after what happened on the weekend is not past me. But good evening. So there's a little bit of history behind this this trip. It is, as Dr. Maestas said, it's more than a trip. It is separate from the Plymouth International Chorus. But while we have done that, and we've traveled there, and Dr. Maestas mentioned Mr. Grossman has traveled there. He's done previous professional development for teachers in all the southwest of England, actually, not just Plymouth. We had an opportunity to do that. Apparently that went really well because they want to see him again. So I was contacted by the head of the music service for Plymouth, England, and they requested some in-depth professional development for teachers, but also some in-depth teaching of a cappella music by students. And the idea here is that students will be performing, but they'll also be doing the teaching and the educating to the kids in Plymouth, England. The idea is that we're going to put together a group over in Plymouth, England, hopefully shortly. Mr. Grossman's going to make arrangements and by the musical arrangements, and send that to them. They're going to work. We're going to work with our partners. They're going to put kids together, Skype, talk, record, go back and forth, and prepare them before they even go, and before the students even go, and then work with them in depth. At the same time, Mr. Grossman will provide, and the students will provide some professional development for teachers over there. So this was on request. of the music service of Plymouth, England. This is, how long have, 7 years, 8 years? The group.
Group started in officially in the fall of 2012.
Right.
So this is the 6th year, I believe, of the group, going into the 7th. Yeah.
So, and they've learned a lot along the way, some good things, some focus for growth things, but they're at a position that is pretty unique, and I haven't seen a group at a high school level that would be able to handle this type of opportunity, going there and teaching teachers and teaching kids how to do something there at a very high level. So we've had some discussion along with Dr. Maestas, Dr. Campbell, talked to Mr. Hanna, because we are 2 high schools in one town. We have had some discussions, and the musical discussions with Mr. Luciana, because he has done a marvelous job in the last 2 years, and getting a cappella here at South High School, which has just been fabulous. And within the 2 years, I think they're a little ahead of where you were, I'm just saying.
I would agree.
In all honesty, I think they are. But after some discussion with him, he doesn't feel that they're quite in the position to join the other group, and too much of a leap at this point. This is a very open, honest conversation. And however, we've talked about providing some other opportunities for South Avenue that would be more in the area of where their trajectory is. So we're looking at opportunities Nashville, opportunities in Virginia.
There's one in Virginia,
Yeah.
something in North Carolina that
Yeah.
is a pretty big thing. There's a lot of different festivals that are constantly inviting. They want high school groups to come be a part of it, because what the contemporary a cappella world is finding is that high school is kind of the wave of the future with this, because they're led by
Geeks?
yes. Because being led by music teachers, it is really helping develop what's happening in the high school realm. And there's a lot of really fantastic festivals that are trying to reach out more to high school programs all around the country.
So to be sensitive to that, my job as the coordinator of all schools in visual arts and performing arts is to consider all the students and all the programs of where they are. And I just wanted you guys to know that there's been lots of discussion, and I think both are heading in a very, very positive direction. So that's a little bit of the background for the trip, kind of how it came about. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Grossman to talk a little bit about the details of the proposal.
Yeah. So the plan would be to leave from Logan on Friday, April 12th, which is the beginning of April vacation. And we would go directly to Heathrow. We'd arrive there on the Saturday. We are looking at some different options for the best way to get from Heathrow to Plymouth. Right now, we're looking at actually trying to hire a bus specifically just for our group. Check into a hotel, stay at a hotel there, spend Sunday doing a bunch of sort of exploration, kind of getting a lay of the land and experiencing like what Plymouth is all about, and meeting with the students who will be singing that we'll be working with over the course of the week. Monday through Wednesday is going to be a lot of working with these students. We've done a summer a cappella workshop for middle school students for the past few years, where essentially you build a little group for a week. The idea is a little bit similar to that. Like Mike said, we'll have arrangements there. Then we're going to be working with them and teaching them some of the technique that is that goes along with any type of proper singing, and works with contemporary a cappella and choral music, and kind of bridge that gap a little bit. The idea being that by the end of Wednesday, we'll be presenting a concert as Northern Lights, and have this new group perform a few songs independently there, and then maybe do one or two all together depending on sort of on how the preparation goes, or really not the preparation, but just sort of what looks like the best way to go to be to have a successful night. And through those days, doing as much stuff as we can to understand more about the culture in UK and Plymouth, and understand the history of Plymouth and how it connects to our history in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Thursday morning, we are looking to take a train from Plymouth up to Paddington and spend a couple of days in London, because we're going to be in the UK. Figure might as well try to spend some time in London and learn about that. I mean, it's a pretty big hub in our world, and there's a lot to see there. So we're looking into different things that we can do there. A colleague of mine sings with a group called the Swingle Singers, and they're one of the top vocal groups in the world, and they're based in London. So, and he actually worked with the educational outreach for their group. So I've been in little bit of talks with him of, can we set up something together in London, and we might try to find a place to perform there as well, along with learning more about the culture and area there. And then we'd be coming back on the Saturday, the 20th, going right from Heathrow to Logan, and coming back that night. And that would be at least the sort of the pillars of what we've come up with for this trip.
Okay, committee members. Ms. Hunt.
I just have a comment. I think this is great. I think that you guys have done so much with the program that this kind of elevates it to the next level of leadership, which is going to be so important when these kids move on past high school. So I think that this is like the next step from your performances and their own education, and they're turning around into actually teaching and taking a leadership role, which will be so valuable for their resumes and their college experience. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
Other committee members with questions or comments? Okay, I think it's really very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. I'm actually envious.
Yeah, so who do you need to chaperone?
We have a very
Yes.
long process. We have a great staff in Plymouth Public Schools, music teachers and art teachers. I'm very lucky. Dave's certainly been among them. I think one thing that Dave and Jason have done is figured out that a way to get kids into singing. I don't think Dave or Jason, and certainly not I, would sit here and say a cappella is the end-all be-all of the high-end musical world. It's not, but it's engaging. It gets kids involved. We kind of draw them in that way, and then along the way teach them how to sing properly and healthfully, and then show them all that's great about more traditional choral music as well. So it's a great little trick that you guys have come up with that I've just made public.
I thought I heard some suggestion in your earlier comments that maybe someday we would hear both schools performing together.
Yeah, I would. I think anytime we can do that, I think that's great. There's so much work, and Dave can speak to this more than I can, but there's so much work going into those arrangements. It would have to be planned out, and it could be, but it would have to be planned out at the beginning of the year to do that. And the only thing I'm conscious of as the coordinator is just not putting too much more on the directors for more time. But I love the idea, and it's certainly something that we could possibly
that'd be exciting too.
look into.
Okay.
We actually we're working on a plan for this coming year in terms of our concerts here in Plymouth to bring the groups together in concerts, but also to something we did this year in a concert at North was we had a piece that we had all of the groups sing together. So the idea would also kind of be that if we can get that concert to happen, that we
hear that.
bring everyone
I'd love
together.
to hear that. We will have to take this as a voice vote because technologically they haven't been able to get.
Yes,
Ms.
I would
Burgess' system
recommend
working.
that we do that tonight.
Ms. Badger.
I was just gonna say, thank you for sharing why South wasn't invited. That was my question. I was like, that's weird. But thank you for explaining it and everything like that. And while I'm on that, I just wanted to move that we approve the
Please
field
do.
trip as presented.
So we have a motion to approve, seconded by Ms. Hunt. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor? That is unanimous, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you
very
for your
much.
time. Have a good evening.
Good luck.
Oh, it's something really exciting now, the property revolving account. Mr. Costin.
He loves having his moment.
I do, I enjoy these. Let me open this up here. So recent changes in Department of Revenue allow us to combine some accounts, and we're asking for the school committee's permission to essentially use the use of school property revolving account, which will combine two other accounts, the custodial revolving account, and will also combine parking fees. All of these are permissible to use in a school, use of school revolving account, which will also include building rental, et cetera. We've spoken with the finance director, and she is very willing to work with us on this. What it does for us is it combines three accounts. We don't have to manage three accounts for similar expenditures. So we'll have one account, and we'll create that, and we'll be able to track revenue, expenditures, et cetera, by distinct lines, codes, but within one fund. And account is really a fund. So this would eliminate us in the future having to get permission at town meeting for the custodial revolving account. And what if the school committee does vote this tonight, we will ask to put forward an article at the fall town meeting to essentially rescind that account.
Okay, so you would be looking for a motion to approve a use of school property revolving fund, and that fund
To
would,
establish that fund, correct.
would combine the building use, the parking fees, and custodial overtime into one
Correct.
account.
Correct.
Okay, that's what the motion should be, Ms. Badger.
My question is, the custodial overtime that you're referring, is that what they pay for their business use fee? Is that how you get the custodial? Okay. So it's
It's
basically
strict-
putting it where it should have been all
Right,
along.
it's strictly an outside function, and it's an in and out account.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions about this request? Is there a motion? Ms. Badger?
I move that we establish the use of school property revolving account.
That's the motion. Ms. Burgess is the second on that. Is there any questions on the motion? Okay, again, all those in favor? And that is, are you voting? Or you have a question? Ms. Haywood?
Okay. I just wondered, are there any implications for combining this account? I should probably have asked the question.
I'm sorry,
Are
the
there any
implications?
Yes, for combining the account.
There's only beneficial implications as far as we're concerned. We'll essentially bring the accounts all into balance, which we would normally do at the end of the year, and we would like to start the year off, the fiscal year off, with these accounts in place. So what it will do, it'll actually give us greater accountability, because we'll be able to start these accounts fresh, so to speak, and we'll be able to establish those revenue and expenditure lines that'll give us greater detail and tracking as opposed to the old accounts.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion, and it's been seconded, and I will take the vote. All those in favor of the motion? And that is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Costa. And now we're going to get our annual student handbook updates. Dr. Campbell.
Thank you, Dr. Sorensen. Just to point out in your electronic school board, there are a number of attachments for your reference. The first document being the summary of revisions, and I want to stress a couple of things. First, the formatting of the documents here are not complete. In terms of the process that we go through administratively, I have an administrative group that looks at the handbook, which encompasses preschool through high school, as well as coordinators and directors across the district. We use a Google Doc to do that. So when we transfer it over to PDFs for the purposes of tonight's meeting, it may look a little different. So that will be edited and formatted once it's reviewed and completed, and we know exactly how it's going to read. So I just wanted to point that out. And some of the page numbers, consequently, when it was converted over on the summary of revisions sheet, which is the first attachment, may be off, but I'll speak to that. Any change, recommended change that we've made is highlighted in yellow. So you'll see it in the attachments. It's either highlighted, if it's highlighted, and there's text there, it's a recommended addition. If it's highlighted and has a strike through, it's a recommended deletion, okay? So I'm just going to go through section by section. Some of them are more significant than others, but there's really not a lot here. But there are some things that were on old business that I'd like to present to you. In terms of the elementary section, I'll do that first, Appendix A. There are really only two changes that are being recommended. The first is early dismissal days and the reference to PM kindergarten on half days. We do no longer have PM kindergarten. We have full day kindergarten. That was something that was overlooked before. So we've eliminated any reference to that. So that was a logical change. The other revision recommendation has to do with assessments and report cards. The language is clearer regarding the reporting of grades. We've inserted expectations / standards because it's a standards-based report card. For those who don't know, the elementary report card is standards-based. Those are all based on end-of-year standards. So if you have a reporting period in December or in March, we're not assessing it on the end-of-year standards. We're assessing it on the expectations at that moment in the year in relation to that. So we added the word expectations to that to be clear. Okay? So those are the only changes.
Okay,
in
any
the
questions about the
section.
elementary Appendix A changes? Ms. Badger?
Not a question about the change, but I don't know if this is part of the formatting
Yep.
that will happen, but
Most likely.
where it says, I think it's page A2, and it just says parents have formal opportunity to meet and teach during the months of December and March. And then there's no period between March and written report card, which I assume should be the next sentence, and it's the same for 3 through 5, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Yep. Yep.
So that's just one thing. So.
Yes, thank you. And that'll all be looked at through the
I
formatting
figured.
process, but thank you for that.
Any other questions about Appendix A? Okay, back to Dr. Campbell.
Okay. Middle school, again, very few changes. Attendance and absences. We've added language from the main section defining excused and unexcused absences. And the only other addition that we made was in the behavioral consequence section, adding smoking and vaping to the policy, unfortunately. It's a necessary thing these days. So we've added that language as well.
Any questions on Appendix B, middle school? Okay, moving along.
Okay, the high school, there's typically more revisions and recommendations in there, so that follows suit to this evening. The first being reference to what we used to call career and vocational technical education. It's now college and career technical education, so CCTE. That was pretty good. It actually rolled off the tongue, didn't it? Pretty well. So that is a recent revision within the Department of Education. We have cleared that language up to reflect not only that, but also the current programs that we have within the district. So any changes to that.
Could I make it just a minor suggestion?
Yes,
You know,
of course.
depending upon where the CCTE program is housed, could be worded depending upon the location of the program as opposed to using the word housed.
Yep, we can make that change, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
I totally agree. Thank you for that. Also, the next section, which actually is C5, it is evening high school / summer school. We've gotten rid of the evening high school section because we've added pieces about the alternative program later in the document and left the summer school piece. So you'll see the strike from that at the beginning of that section. So it now reads summer school, and we'll go into the summer school program and what we offer and how that works. Okay. The next section, with the inclusion of biomedical, we thought it was important in the graduation requirements we speak to this when people apply, that the biomedical courses do not count towards the sequence of courses that students must take for graduation purposes. So we've added some parenthetical notes in there, which you can see highlighted in the science sections, just saying not including biomedical courses. And the other piece which was overlooked is that the PE requirement for the current CCTE is 10. It's no longer 8.5. That's an option. That's no longer an option, so that's reflected in there as well.
Any questions here? Ms. Hunt?
I know in the middle school you did added language for excused and unexcused absences. Is that language already in high school, or do we need to define that
It's
as
already,
well?
I believe it's already in there.
Because
Yep.
I do know this year there was a lot of confusion with some parents as to I know there was a big thing on social media where a parent thought that an excused absence just meant that the parent had to call and say that
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
no,
out.
there's pretty clear language in there, yeah.
So, that did happen this year, I'm sure you
Sure.
probably heard
And
about
those
it
things,
as well.
those things come up from time to time,
Yeah.
but yes, there's language in there, yep. And Mrs. Fry can attest to that as a former high school principal.
I know I saw a lot about it this year.
For years.
Yes, yep, but the middle school didn't have that in there, so that's in there now. I mentioned the evening school, high school piece and the deletion of the evening school because we've added language regarding the alternative high school. And through the work with Mr. Avatable, added language to speak to the mission of our alternative education program, the profile, and the student learning that happens both in the classroom and outside the classroom, and some of the related services that take place. So that language wasn't there. And we felt it was important regardless of, this is independent of some of the thinking that we've had recently, which Dr. Myas spoke to, which is really important to include in the handbook regardless of location, really. Okay.
Any questions on the language regarding Ms. Badger?
I actually had a question with, on page C7, where
Yep.
it's the graduation and promotion requirements. It says each student who attends, it just says PHS, so is that Plymouth High Schools or attends a Plymouth High School, or do we?
It's,
It was
so
confusing.
Mr. Avatable has tried to come up with a name for the program so it has an identity, so it's Plymouth Harbor Academy,
So then-
PHA.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering, because in the next
Yep.
sentence it said PHA, so it just needs to be.
Yeah, so we did in the mission statement, if you look at the mission statement, we said the mission of Plymouth Harbor Academy, parentheses, PHA.
Yeah,
So we can add,
yeah, just as long, I think where it says it just says PHS, so I think that just might be a miss.
Oh,
Because
okay.
when I read it,
Thank
I was
you.
like, it's PHA
Yes.
in one line and PHS, and
I
I
see.
didn't know.
below the
Those are
highlighted
both.
section.
Yeah,
Thank you, I
below
see that now.
So I didn't
Yep.
know if it was a generic thing or if it was.
Nope, that's
okay.
that's a typo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions on this part? Okay, Dr. Campbell, moving on.
Thank you. The next section, we've had some conversations about and regarding student failures. So we've had a lot of conversations internally, we've had conversations at committee, and also with department heads. And we feel confident at moving forward with the following language. There is a recommendation to have a minimum grade policy, which would be reflected in the handbook regarding failures. I'm just going to read it because I think it's worth reading. It is the practice of Plymouth North and Plymouth South High Schools to employ a minimum grade policy for all high school students. Accordingly, students will receive a minimum grade of 45% during the first and third term of a full year course and the first term of a semesterized course. Exceptions for terms not referenced above may be made at the principal's discretion. While anything below a 60%, an F, is considered a failing grade, we strive to give students an opportunity to work toward passing for the year. Students who receive a minimum grade for the term will have this noted in the comment section of the report card. And then it goes below that, talks about the minimum grade scale. So the students earned versus documented grade. The following grade would be recorded on the report card and factored into the student's cumulative numeric average for the semester and/or year, according to the policy noted above. So anything from 0 to 45 would be reflected as a 45% for that marking period, the ones referenced above. And then 45 or above would be the actual grade earned by the student. It's important to note that even if a student received a 45 for 2 marking periods in a full year course, you'd still need to get a C+ in both the remaining terms as well as your mid-year and final to pass that class. So the student's still failing, but we've had a lot of conversations about what we believe in terms of giving kids an opportunity. And more importantly, I think through this process, equally important I should say, is finding out why the students are failing and why they're failing at such a rate in the cases where this is being reflected. So it's really important that we just don't, this is an opportunity to give kids hope, I think, and give kids an opportunity, because if if you get below a 45 in a marking period, say they get a 20 in a term, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible in some cases, to overcome that. So while we're doing this, we're also stressing that it's important for us to continue to work with those students, because they're failing for a reason, and we need to continue to work on that during the course of that year or that semesterized course. But we do feel that this is language that is appropriate for consideration for this evening.
Okay. Committee members, this has been on our old business list for a while now, so we've discussed this, but this is the first time we're seeing it in its final form. Questions, comments, needs? Go ahead, Ms. Badger.
How is it being received? I know that a big thing was the teachers, making sure the
Yeah,
teachers were okay
I think
with this.
there are a lot of people that support it wholeheartedly, and I think there are some that have some concerns, and then some that don't feel completely supportive about this. But I think we're in a really good place. We've had voluntary meetings also since we made the decision to move forward with this recommendation. I've had no negative feedback or concerns. We've had multiple meetings actually within the last week, specifically knowing that we were going to make this recommendation to school committee before it was published for electronic school board. I think that this is something that is philosophical in some people's minds, and the only way to change that is through giving it a shot and seeing it. You can't really change that without the students are still failing. And I think it's really important that we work on getting back to the root cause of the failure, whether it's a student who is struggling academically or they're sitting in the back of the room and they're not doing anything. Well, why are they not doing anything? We still have an obligation to figure out why. But I think we have more support than not, for sure. I feel comfortable saying that after speaking to all the administrators, both building and our district administrators that work with department heads, that I think we're in a better place than not.
Ms. Hunt.
I know this discussion took up a great deal of time for the Plymouth North School Council as well, and I'm sure
Yeah.
South probably discussed it as well. Did they have any feedback on it, or did you take any
We've had a
consideration?
meeting with both
School
building
councils?
administrations, and got feedback from, what they're receiving from, not necessarily councils, I didn't ask that particular question, but in terms of, from the building staff, for
'Cause
sure.
I know the last couple of years that I was on Norris, it was pretty much a big topic of discussion.
Yeah, and as Dr. Sorensen said, we've been looking at this since 2014-15 school year.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of these things, we have some proven evidence in other districts and people who now work with us that have implemented such policies. And it doesn't resolve the issues, but it gives
It's the how do you come
students,
out of that
it
part
gives
of it.
students
How do you
hope.
get out of it?
We still have to work on
Yeah.
resolving the issues. And I go back to, it's giving students hope. We're giving them, there's still a light at the end of the tunnel. They have to do a lot of work to recover from a 45. It's still 15 points below a passing grade.
So I'm sure kids say all the time, why bother, because I'm already done.
Right,
So
they have.
Yes.
I'm done.
Ms. Sabah, you have a question?
So once we've established, these set of children, so I'm assuming that there's a plan of action that
Yep.
takes place, okay.
Yes, so we handle it administratively in terms of the grade book will always exist as it is. So we will always know exactly how the students fared. We're not changing the grade book, we're changing the grade that goes into the report card. And we have to continue to work on our systems, not only of reporting this, but progress monitoring and intervening with students. We actually have a couple of things in the works for both middle schools and high schools regarding student failures that we're going to be rolling out at the beginning of next school year. So I look forward to actually talking about some of those systems to you next year, and even during the retreat.
I actually feel good with your language. It's clear, it's concise, it's to the point. But there's a couple of questions that you didn't address, and I'm sure you discussed them because we know that the conversation about this topic has been very lively at the secondary level, so let me ask you a couple of questions that caught me by surprise here a little bit. You chose first and third term as opposed to first term only or first and second. Could you explain that to me?
Because, well, two things. We stayed away from the final term as a standard practice because we didn't want students to just, well, I can pass and I'll do nothing and I will continue to pass because I got a 45, because that could happen. So we stuck with the first and third. We wanted to give them two opportunities because you know, we felt that, you know, issues don't always arise in the first term or in the third term. They may happen in both terms. So again, getting some feedback from some of our administrators who have had similar practices within their own districts, we felt that giving the students an opportunity in the 2 terms was a better solution than just the 1 term. It also equals in terms of the amount of the percentage of terms you're looking at for a full year versus a semesterized class.
And my other question, and you didn't address it, and I'm sure you have a reason why. I felt that administration in the buildings should have some discretion regarding this policy.
Yes.
In other words, if we have a student who is flaunting the policy, in other words, where, how long is the term? I don't know how many weeks is the term, but we have 3 weeks left in the term.
45 days.
The child's getting a 25, knows he's going to get a 45, and now can become a problem in that classroom. And I was hoping that a teacher would say to that child, you know, you could get the 45 if you do something for me in the next couple of weeks. But if you're going to sit there and just flaunt it, you know, you're going to get stuck with the grade. I was hoping we could have that as part of the policy.
Something in terms of principal discretion, we certainly could add something regarding principal's discretion to
But we added it in terms of the
reconsider that.
terms.
Yes. Yep.
I think there's well, I don't know. You guys.
We've
are
gone
there.
back and forth about that, about like when, so it, and it comes down to like a philosophical thing too. So you have a student that's choosing to do that. So they're engaging in a behavior, right, that we still have to resolve.
Yep, yep.
So how do we differentiate when we want to apply that? Is it, we had a lot of conversations about this, quite a few.
I'm sure you have.
We have. You know, did they earn that low grade because they didn't do something? And to a degree, that's true. But we also have to, you know, we've had a lot of conversation about this. There's a reason why they're doing that. I mean, we owe it to ourselves and to the students to try to change that behavior. And I understand what you're saying about
So
working with
I'm
students.
thinking this is good. This is good language, and we'll try it. But I could see towards the end of the 3rd term when a major project is due. I'm not going to do that major project, and I'm going to take my 45. Eventually, kids are going to get wise to this. So that's why I feel that maybe next year when we address this again, we might want to give the opportunity. If you don't hand in your term paper, you're not getting the 45. You know, that's kind of where I'm going with this.
Can we use the 3rd term also as like as a reeval? So if we've caught something in the 1st term?
I'm not so
Yeah.
sure what you mean.
So if the minimum grade was given in the 1st term,
Yeah.
could you look at it as a reevaluation? Right, and we talked about too, sometimes there are circumstances that happen in 3rd term only, and in 1st term, the student, sometimes you see a, for whatever reason, you know, there's a different story for every student and why they fail. Sometimes they're fine 1st term, 2nd term, and the 3rd term, they start slipping. But I hear what you're saying. We've really gone around, this is why it's been on at committee and administratively, we've been having discussions on and off about this for so many years. This is very reflective of some of the recommendations from, again, that other districts are currently practicing that some of our own administrators have experience with. But I certainly do agree that any practice that we put in place should be reviewed and reflected, and we will do a thorough evaluation of that along the way to see to what degree are we seeing a change in behavior as a result of this, or are we seeing that it's actually helping. It's important to note, I did pull the amount of failures that we have across every department at the end of the year for all our courses, and we don't have as many as one may think. You're looking at approximately, you know, there's a range. It could be less than 0 in one class, and it could get close to double digits in a certain department. But you're looking at about 4% of the population, you may have a student failure. So we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of students.
That's a good number.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I did pull that prior to, as we went through this process. It's important to look at that.
All right, we'll move on to your next one.
Okay, we've also, in terms of tardiness and dismissals, which is actually on C11, tardiness to school after 10:30 instead of 11 o'clock because it's more reflective of the midpoint of the day. And that was a recommendation from both high school principals, actually.
Okay.
Sorry, I went out of order there at one point. On page C14, when we get into the use of possession of tobacco or electronic cigarettes, we added vape pipes to that section as well, to be a little more specific. And then auto and parking regulations, we added parking in a non-designated spot could result in loss of parking privileges as well. So that was added as well, and there's an extra bullet there that will come out.
Okay, any questions on these? Okay, moving along.
Student financial obligations, we added an example. This is any student who has an outstanding financial obligation to the school cannot participate in co-curricular activities. We added extracurricular field trips as an example there as well. The consequences charts, we also added vaping with smoking, athletic fees. This is something also which is new, which we haven't had conversations at this table, but I did have conversations with both athletic directors that actually came from them and their recommendations were we've evaluated not only what is possible here in the Plymouth Public Schools, but we've got a lot of feedback in terms of the practices across other communities, and that is a family cap on athletic fees. So as you know, it's been a few years now, I think, that we've had a $135 per season per student athlete as the athletic fee. Didn't go up much over the years, but it went up, I think it was $100 before that. It's about 135.
It's been 135 for
Yep.
at least 3 years now.
Yeah, we've added language that reads the following. The Plymouth Public Schools have instituted a $675 maximum per family per academic year for athletic fees. Please contact the athletic director's office at your school if you have reached the family cap. This is really particularly important for families that, you know, if you have 3 children, and sometimes we do, we just had 3 triplets that graduated from Plymouth North.
Right. And they have another one in this, there's 4 in that family.
Right, so you
all in
can,
high
it can
school.
get quite expensive.
Right.
And this is 5 times, this is like 5
5.
seasons.
Yeah.
And we looked at other districts and what, those that have caps, they range from 4 to 6 seasons approximately. in
And
their
many of
caps.
our athletes play 3 seasons.
We had a lot
So
of,
if you
yes,
have
as you can
2
see,
kids
they're getting
playing 3
more,
seasons.
they're getting more and more awards for doing 12 seasons at the
right,
end of graduation, so, which is a wonderful thing, and it's an expense. So this is something that both athletic directors feel is more than doable and comes from.
Any other questions about it? Okay.
And the last piece to add here is practice and game attendance. There's language here regarding Section 504, Title II, or otherwise under federal law, reference there. I think that came out of the, is that out of the audit that we had? And also language regarding, school sanctioned trips and academic competitions as acceptable excused absences. So that's the
That's
only
good.
thing in that section. And that's last in the high school appendix.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. There's no recommendations to preschool. There's no, those come few and far between. The main section on C24, actually, there is language regarding school bus procedures and regulations. There was some old language here regarding use of headphones on bus. It really put a lot of onus on the bus driver to regulate that. We're recommending to eliminate the language regarding confiscation at the discretion of the bus driver. It's really not something that our bus drivers should be held responsible for. Many times there are students that listen to music on the way to school and it's just fine. I think it's a good thing, actually. It can be kind of a calming thing. It's better than being disruptive, Mrs. Burgess, I agree. So there's a recommendation to strike that language there as well. Later in the section, pages 48 to 49, we had old language regarding No Child Left Behind. It's been replaced with language specific to the Every Student Succeeds Act. Okay, and a little explanation of that. And then there's also some language right before you get to the signature pages regarding internet access, permitted and denied. We struck the language regarding requiring some level of internet, in terms of permissions for internet access. There's really no way to avoid, in this day and age, the use of the internet for instructional purposes. We always have the ability, a family always has the ability to challenge materials and to challenge things and have a conversation regarding that, but to completely eliminate the internet for instructional purposes would be pretty much impossible. Okay. And what will be included will be the updated testing schedule in the back cover as well. The last thing looks more significant than it is, and it's the signature page. There's some recommendations there to eliminate a lot of excess, student information, parent information that's really repetitive, which we really don't need. We already have it in many other forms, and we're trying to simplify the process. So there's some basic student information we need that will be called upon. The liability release form is referenced there as well. Regarding participation in health and curriculum, science curriculum that involves sex education and human sexuality issues, we've changed the language to be more in the affirmative, that yes, I'm allowing participation, and no, I'm restricting it. I felt it was clearer. And then we've done the same with the third-party mailing services to put it in the affirmative. And then we also, in terms of pictures and students' work in the media, we added student work to that section as well. And then we've added the technology acceptable use policy has been read and agreed upon to the student handbook. So it's really, that really is all the recommendations for you this evening.
Any final questions or need for clarification? Okay, so this is an action item for them, Ms. Berger.
I just have a, on 8, where it says, in addition,
In which section?
it just says in addition to school council, or whatever, are our other groups for parents. It has, the special needs parents advisory group. I'm just wondering if it should be the CPAC.
Special Ed Parent Advisory Council is CPAC.
Yeah, it just says
Which page, I'm
special
sorry?
needs, page 8, on
The
the
main
main
section?
section. Yeah. And it doesn't, and CPAC isn't there before it. It looks like it's supposed to be defining what it means, but it's not defining anything. I could be wrong. Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong.
Special Needs Parent Advisory Council, CPAC.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we can change that to reflect
Yeah,
CPAC.
just to reflect what we refer to it as in the
Yep.
district.
We can do that under the other groups for parents
Yeah.
section. Yes,
Thank
not a
you.
problem.
Dr. Mastis.
Just background information, we're experiencing a little bit of difficulty behind the scenes with the electronic school board, so if you could vote manually, that would be best.
Okay, yeah. I can see that because we don't have the opportunity to join the meeting. I can see it's not listed here.
It's a little, I'm not sure if it's because we're here or whatever.
But anyway, so
You can vote
we can take a motion now. There have been some recommended changes, so the motion would be to approve Dr. Campbell's recommendation with the changes that we've suggested.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the student handbook with the edits as recommended.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Hunt. Any questions on that motion? Okay, so we'll take the vote. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good report. Okay, and now we have a series of job descriptions.
Yes, we've been continuing to work diligently on our job descriptions, and on our new website, we're excited they're being published after approval on the HR page. And the first one tonight is guidance counselor, and we reviewed this with Dr. Halpin, who discussed it with counselors throughout the district, and I didn't know if anyone had any comments or suggestions. We went with our similar protocol and made some changes. It was very outdated again. Really, we added some things about dropping out of school and transition planning and things of that nature, because that's taken on a big piece of guidance counselors these days.
I'm going to make a comment right now because it pertains to 3 of these.
Yes.
Some of them reference the importance of confidentiality of student records and student
Yes.
information.
Yep.
3 of them don't mention that at all. So I would suggest
Yep.
that under the guidance counselor, the school adjustment counselor, and the school psychologist,
Yep.
we put in the language, when necessary and appropriate, careful protection, no, when necessary and appropriate, carefully protects the confidentiality of information. In other words, as a responsibility, when necessary and appropriate, the person carefully protects the confidentiality of information. Because I do not want those people talking in the hall or on the elevator or in the cafeteria.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, the school nurse has it in there, and the guidance counselor has it in there. The other 3 don't.
The other 3 don't. Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. Without a doubt.
Ms. Badger.
I just had on 15 where it says assist students in making, I just thought we could put maybe assist students in compiling applications to college.
Absolutely.
And 16, I could be wrong, but where it says makes recommendation to colleges for admissions, yes, makes sense. But in financial aid, I don't, do they, do our
Yep,
guidance counselors do that?
they do a lot now in helping families navigate the financial aid form, which is very intricate, and they also, you know, work with financial aid offices giving information. That's really changed a lot in my years as a principal in that whole time frame because it is very intricate, and they actually run voluntary sessions for parents and things of that nature. So, and they've helped parents come in and file with them when needed and asked in situations that they see. It's not kind of coming together by the timelines. They really monitor it and do a lot.
See, I read it as they were calling the colleges and being like, hey,
Yeah.
so that's what they're
It's a
actually
financially,
doing that?
yep, they're doing they are helping them navigate the waters because of the
Okay.
difficulty
Okay.
of it.
Ms. Hunt?
Also, don't they help with, like, if they need financial aid, even like the $50 fee to apply for college? I know the
Yes.
guidance
Yep.
counselors will
They do.
advise
They work.
the families on how to get that
Yes.
waived, as
Yep.
well as AP tests and all
Yes.
that kind of
Yep.
stuff.
There's been a major shift in that in
Yes.
the last 6 or
Yes.
7 years.
Okay. Motor therapist?
Okay. Motor therapist, we combined physical therapist and occupational therapist for this because we found we were doing the performance responsibilities and they're very similar. So this was something that we worked through with the PT and OT staff, and they have different licensing than like a teacher license, so it's through the Department of Public Health. So we worked collaboratively on this as well. So if there's anything.
Ms. Badger?
Where it says on 24, where
Yeah.
strive to participate in professional development communities to remain current in the educational field.
Yep.
Should that also be in, I don't know, in the related, the motor therapist stuff? I don't know, the education field seemed kind of.
We wanted to make sure these were written for the education field, so that's a consistent line in a number of them.
Yeah, I noticed it
Because,
I was like,
yeah, they don't have to follow the same recertification requirements as, say, a math teacher, but we
Yeah.
wanted them to make sure they were occupational therapists directed into the education setting. So
Okay.
I could modify it if you wanted, but that was the intention behind it, because an OT in a school is very different than an OT in a private practice.
For
So-
me, if it said
Yeah.
something like strives to participate in professional development to remain current in the motor therapist education field or something, I don't know, you probably
Yeah.
know what
Well,
the
actually,
field should be.
I had that debate with myself earlier
Yeah.
today as well.
Yeah.
But I came to the conclusion that I would leave educational field because as the disciplines change, information comes to the therapist that's not part of their certification.
True.
So we'd want them to be reading the journals and
Right.
keeping up with that, even though it's not part of their certification.
True.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And they also participate in some school-based things that aren't even part of their field because of our requirements with the Department of Education, things like that, so.
Thank you.
But I liked the title combination, that was all that.
Yeah.
I did like that.
In the classroom, so I mean, when they get the
Okay.
services.
The next is school nurse educator. We worked through this as well. There'd been a couple drafts of this, and I did communicate with our nurses even up till today that there were some pieces in here that are grant funded at this time, and if that grant were ever to go away, we would obviously reevaluate and look at that. But our nurses are a vital part of the district, and it really covers a lot of the new things that are out there. Things like monitoring school attendance, chronic absenteeism, those are things that have come much more prevalent lately for our nurses, so.
Ms. Badger?
I just have a consistency, and maybe maybe it's me, but like number 10, it just says reports to Board of Health. In another part, in a couple others, it said the board or the something.
Okay.
So maybe just inserting the
Yes.
so it's consistent.
No, it helps.
And
I
just
read
check
so
it.
many of these, I get a little blurry.
No, I know.
So absolutely. So the Board of Health, yep.
Yeah.
And they are different than the motor therapists. They actually also have to have a DESI license as well, so,
Yes.
for this group, as well as their Board of Health. Should I move on to?
Okay, moving on.
The next is adjustment counselor / social worker, and we had a lot of feedback from our staff that they did want both titles in the title, even though our position that we employ is adjustment counselor, but I thought it was a good argument and we agreed with them. So again, we worked this through the adjustment counselors and found all the pieces in here, and this job has changed dramatically over the years as well. So, but they also have a DESI license, and we are looking for outside social work and counseling degrees.
Ms. Badger.
With 11, it says takes initiative in planning, developing, implementing, and evaluating programs and services to meet the needs of students who have special problems. Do we need the word special problems? Could it
No,
just be
probably
problems
not. That
adjusting?
makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I had.
That's a good one.
Sorry, I just was like, oh, I don't like
They
this.
get a little wordy, I apologize.
And yeah, 12 was the same one we talked about before, so you're good.
Yep, okay, awesome, thank you. No, I like it, it helps.
I just kind of was a set off kind of bolt, like all
Yes.
kinds of things.
The last one is the school
psychologist. Similar to the others, and we vetted this through Dr. Rogers and the psychologists, and had to make specific changes based on, different pieces that they have with their jobs, so. A lot is data preparation and collection and testing. Is there something?
Nope.
No?
Anything on the school psychologist? Okay. All right, so there are guidance counselor, motor therapist, nurse educator, school adjustment counselor / social worker, and school psychologist. We could take a motion to approve all of the presented job descriptions with the recommended changes.
I move that we we approve all the recommended job, oh my gosh.
Descriptions.
Descriptions, thank you, with the recommended changes.
Seconded by Ms. Burgess. Any questions on the motion? Okay.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, yes, that it is, that's a good comment. All right, so let's,
We're gonna
all those
keep
in
going
favor,
for
please?
another year.
All vote, everybody voted in favor, thank you, Ms. Fry.
By the time you finish, we'll have to do that.
I know. Plodding through it every Tuesday at 10. If you ever want to come by, that's what we do.
Reports and proposals from committee members. Ms. Hunt.
Hold on, I'm just waiting for my notes to, I wanted to, I know last time I was here, I reminded everybody that the school committee was invited to the Fragment Society's 200th anniversary tea. I wanted to thank Dr. Maestas and Lisa Shelley and Dr. Sorensen for coming, but I particularly wanted to mention something that's more relevant to us right now, is that I want to thank Mr. Fry and the Plymouth South football team, because what a lot of people don't realize is they actually came and set up the tents and the tables and the chairs for the event. So I'm sure you're probably gonna get a formal letter to him, but I'd like to personally thank him because it was a lot of work, and it was nice to have that, not even worry about that for the event. So thank you very much. The DVC subcommittee met again last week to help plan the itinerary for the Shishigahama visit in August 2nd through 8th. They're not here for a long time at all. I think if we give them, I think we decided to only give them one family day because there really isn't a lot of time to do that. So it's a very tedious, long process, but having the subcommittee is helping. And I believe the DVC is meeting again as a group, not the subcommittee, but the Distinguished Visitors Committee is meeting again this week. So we're pretty much gonna be between the subcommittee and the actual committee meeting every week until they're here. So you'll hear more about it when the agenda comes out. We are having an official dinner that everyone will be invited to with a guest. We only really have 4 adults that are coming. There's no, the mayor isn't coming this year, so it's not like an official, big
Delegation.
But there is a diet member, which is equivalent to a senator or representative, that's coming, as well as the JET program interpreter, Yurimi, who comes every year, is coming, and a staff member of the Kokosmora. So there are 4 adults that are coming that we're gonna probably have a lot of events that you'll hear more about coming up. But it is quite a process, and you'll hear more about it. They're also going to be here. We do have a school committee meeting while they're here. So I would, with everybody's permission, like to invite them to come to at least the opening part of the school committee and just maybe address us and say hi, if that's okay with everybody.
I bet you they have something more enjoyable to do on that night.
So usually they go to the selectmen's meeting, and the selectmen actually
Oh,
are
well,
not.
we're more enjoyable than
The
the select.
selectmen are actually not meeting that week, so we are. So even if, well, honestly, we're gonna sweep them away. They're gonna
Okay.
come, public comments, say hi, and then leave.
Okay, all right.
We are not gonna make them stay any longer than that. But it is nice for them, to say hi to the community and let everybody know that they're here and what they're doing. So.
Dr. Maestas.
Ms. Hunt, I will reach out to Chairman Tavares
Yes,
and before Thursday and let him know my thoughts regarding transportation.
absolutely.
That way he can report on that on Thursday.
Yep.
I want to get more clarity from him as to what his expectation is.
Yep.
Because we've done it, but it's all piecemeal and
And they want something more formal in process
Yeah,
this
well.
year.
Uber and Plymouth Uber.
Yeah, well, the reason being is when we go there, we have a driver, an interpreter, a photographer, and a guy that holds the money.
Yep.
And it's every year when our group comes back, they don't have this, we feel like they don't, and you know, Mrs. Burgess, they feel like they don't get the same red carpet treatment that we get when we go there.
They don't
So
take too
now that the 2 chairmans have gone over, we're hoping maybe instead of talk, it actually happens.
We have a red
Um,
carpet.
We'll see,
Wherever we
yeah,
go.
yeah. The other thing is too, is we would like to plan an educational meeting per se to discuss not only some more collaboration educationally, but also 2020. Because there is a lot planned between the 2 groups in the next 2 years, 2019 and 2020. So,
Okay.
that's gonna be one thing that we're gonna, to have to do. We have 3 teachers coming as well. So there's 14 students, 3 teachers, and then 4 adults.
I was just
Dr.
saying.
Maestas.
Well, I know, when I say that, well, I usually say dignitaries, but there really aren't that many dignitaries this time, so the
Town
teachers
officials.
are, so the teachers will actually stay with families, the 4 adults will stay in a hotel, and then the 14 students will stay in families.
Dr. Maestas.
Well, there are a number of pictures of me floating around with a young boy who, when I first met him, he was a year old, learning how, I actually was in his home the day he learned how to walk. And he's actually coming
He's
as
11.
he's 11 now. And I
he's gonna
told Ms.
stay with
Hunt
you.
tonight that I would
He's
love to
gonna- He's
host
gonna stay
him.
with us.
Yeah, I have to. I have no. I gave him a Dice K jersey
That's great.
for his 2nd birthday. So I'm gonna have him,
That's
we'll
perfect,
see if
because
it
I
fits.
was one family short, so you just solved
Okay, well,
the 2
that's-
problems for me, so that's great.
Okay, we're on reports and proposals. Ms. Becker.
Got a few things. So I went to the last CPAC meeting they had last week, and it was really great. We had a lot of discussion. And one thing I should have brought up in, I guess, new business was they want our help to engage parents. We have that all over the district, wondering how we engage parents, but they would like, maybe some feedback from us with some ideas, maybe how we could engage our special education parents and families. And we discussed maybe giving them a corner, maybe once a month in Friday notes and different things like that, how we might be able to educate families that, they might not see themselves as special education families, but they, maybe they fall in there, but they don't want to see themselves that way, but how to make it seem approachable and something that group could, get some more membership. They're talking about doing some more events that are both, come to a meeting, and maybe we do some kind of events, activities together. So they're really looking to continue to grow the group. They have new leadership, so I told them I'd bring it back to us, and maybe we could throw some stuff around in the next couple months and get back to them. I also had the opportunity to attend, it just went down, the Fire Safety Art Awards, where we had 2 winners at Plymouth South Middle School. Emily Quinn won first place for the county, and Jimmy Dunn won second place for the county. And Jimmy was already, I was at Jimmy's table, and he took notes on all the posters, and he's ready for next year. And he's getting, and they saw what you can win, and so I think both of them have their.
Didn't she win a cash prize?
They both did.
Oh,
Emily won $200 in a plaque, and Jimmy won $100 in a plaque. But if you win the top prize, it's $750, and this, I mean, the little boy who won, little boy who won third place was as big as this trophy. The trophy was huge. So I think the kids were oh, big trophy. So they're already ready for next year. So it was a really nice event to attend. I also went to the last biomedical meeting for this year, and they're really excited to get to do their 4th year this year. The students are doing really well. They had a little bit of hiccups with the junior class. Some of them aren't very happy with the score that they got. But if you look at the national average, we did really well national average wise, but individually some of the students are I only got a 5. Well, a 5 is a national average. So, but I brought this with me in case anybody wanted to look at it, but it's been a really,
No,
yes,
sorry,
she is in
smile,
here.
my daughter.
She is, a picture.
No.
And then just look all the things they're doing, and it's really great. And what they're doing right now, and they need all of our help, everybody listening, everybody here is, for the 4th year, the biggest part is that they're going to be integrated into maybe not into the community, but they're going to make connections with, the people in their field of interest. I told them I have friends who work for the CDC, so I'm going to try to connect them there, and just trying to find all the different ways you can use a biomedical degree. One of the teachers was like, oh, fundraising, and I was like, well, I can help you there, but I don't know anything about medical things. But so they were talking about all the different ways that biomedical comes into our lives, prosthetics, all these things. So they're going to need all of our help to kind of develop an old school, things where you used to flip through.
Rolodex.
A Rolodex, thank you for the word. A Rolodex, and really get everything to help these students move on to their 4th year. So it's really, I think the program's going in great places. And I had the opportunity to go to Habitat Earth and be there with my little cousins so that they could, I obviously saw it when it opened, but I brought them 2 very different kids, and they loved it, both of them. And at the end, I had some community members come up to me, and they were just blown away with what we can offer, and they're all excited to bring their friends. And so I think that the more community members we get going, the more it's going to get out there, and the more we're going to have these programs. And so there's 20 programs this summer, so if you have any chance, just get out and go to it, because they're wonderful. And then my usual, this Sunday, we have the Mass Kids Ride, and we are really excited for the number of students kids that we have riding, but we do still need some volunteers. That's at 9 a.m. at Charge Pond, so it'll be a lot of fun, and I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other reports and proposals. I just want to report that I made it a point to watch the New Balance broadcast of the nationals in South Carolina of our boys and girls teams that came from North. And what a brutal track meet. You could hear the public address person saying, you could hear it while you're watching TV, you could hear the announcement, if you're preparing to run, get into the shade, make sure you drink. There was a girl from Kentucky who was leading, and about 10 yards before the finish line, she collapsed on the track and fell right down. I watched our kids from North run. They didn't do as well, and I think the heat got to them. They were not prepared for that level of heat and humidity. You grew up in New Mexico, you know.
No, he doesn't have the humidity, though.
Yeah, that's
A lot of other stuff, Marge.
But anyway, they're back. They got back today. They're all back safely, and there's a great experience for them.
Good experience.
Anything else? Okay. The next thing on our agenda is PYDC.
PYDC I couldn't attend because I attended this in the recovery.
Sure, Dr.
he'll-
Campbell.
And neither were Dr. Maestas nor I available as well because we had many events that week here for students. But I can report out, it was a very successful meeting, as it usually is. Two things that have happened since we last met: Drug Story Theater, which was supported by PYDC as well. Drug Story Theater is done with the support of Castle Rehabilitation, where students that are, or young adults and teenagers that are in recovery, put on a theatrical performance of their struggles and addictions, and that was done with the 8th graders at PCIS. It was done at South Middle School earlier, so they didn't feel the need to do it again, but it was very well received, an opportunity to hear the stories and the struggles of these students and how they got there, which I thought was really important. So it was a really good, I was able to attend one of those events. They did it several times for each house, and it was very well received. We also had PYDC informational tables set up for the Meet the Coaches, which were jam-packed this year. I can't imagine the fall sports numbers are going to be through the roof, because both schools, they were like coming out of the Performing Arts Center into the hallways. It was just incredible. But we had 2 informational tables set up for PYDC, what it's all about, trying to get participation. Kelly Maycumber, who is our coordinator of the collaborative, she's very good. She's getting up there with Miss Goonan in terms of some of her displays, but these are just some informational flyers that she has made. I'll pass these around to Marge if you want to keep these, you can, regarding alcohol, vapes, different drug issues, as well as childhood adversity experiences and how that affects decision-making. So if you want to look at these.
I would like a set of those to put up in my offices.
I will get you as many copies as you need.
Thank you.
Yep. And that's all I have.
Okay, reports and proposals. Building Committee, Ms. Burgess and I attended the meeting last Thursday night, and I let Ms. Burgess take all the notes.
Isn't he nice? My scribbly notes. But anyway, Plymouth House, Plymouth South High School, they said that they were still pouring the walls and the things on the drive or whatever. By 6:15 it would be completed. Is it completed?
The curbing, I think.
Curbing, yeah, the curbing, yeah. And they said that we have a rebate from Eversource for $132,000.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
On the Russell Street parking deck, they found that there's 500 yards of contaminated materials in 6 different spots, so it's it wasn't in the,
Parking deck.
on the new parking deck by Town Hall, yes.
How many yards, Ms. Burgess?
Huh?
How many yards?
500 yards, but they're in 6 different spots. So they have to dig it all out and, but anyway, they think that, what they think it is pesticides way before the parking lot was even built. It really goes back, yeah. But anyway, the new town hall, what we were working on is the signage. They showed us the signs, and we picked one for the front lawn, a big one and a small one for the side. And they're still working on some of the little issues that are coming up. That punch list isn't going fast, but it's coming down. On the library roof, they have an OPM, the name of the company is Turba from Whitensville, and they're very well known for HVAC on roofs. They have a literacy renovation. They're putting in 3 classroom spaces, and they're getting funding, $267,000 for 4 years. It's fully funded, actually, to be able to have the literacy spot. There'll also be a little office involved with it, too. The North Plymouth Fire Station, well, they're still in the preliminary stages. They said that they think that they're going to go out to bid late November or after Christmas, depending on when they feel is the best time. The maritime facility, there wasn't much different on that. Other project updates, the airport administration building, for some reason, something backed out and they're able to go ahead, so this Thursday at 5:30, they had a groundbreaking up at the airport. So, anyway, it'll be 4.8 million federally funded, and only 200,000 will come out of the Airport Enterprise Fund. Lincoln Street, right now they're in the process of getting ready to have the contents of the building auctioned off, and they said that they don't want any junk in the new town hall. I guess there's a lot of requests for things they had to go move over, but she's not moving any of it. So, White Horse Beach, they need more dollars, so that isn't going far. The salt shed's progressing, and they're getting a contractor to design it. And they're gonna have a presentation soon on the Main Street Extension Garage. And our next meeting will be July 19 on the fire station and the Maritime. So,
Good job. You covered it all.
yeah. They had one little other thing, in Memorial Hall, the HVAC system.
Oh, yeah, that came up.
It's gotta be replaced,
Right, yeah.
300,000. The Memorial Hall. Remember when a piece of it fell during a graduation? I do remember that.
Well, I'm not sure if you realize that, just for this graduation, we had to get temporary air conditioning.
Right,
and-
that's right.
Oh, you did?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, because of it,
'Cause it went
anyway,
down.
they're replacing it. Okay.
Personnel.
Yes. We have one certificated appointment to report and 7 resignations, and we actually are, on June 27th, have our first signing day for new employees for next year that the principals are working on. And we're also in the final stages, the principal search for federal furnace. Lee was able to participate, and it was a great day, and we have 3 finalists on Wednesday going through a whole process with faculty, central administration, and parents are invited in for 3 different sessions on Wednesday night at federal furnace to ask the candidates any questions, so.
Any questions on personnel? Okay. Accounts payable?
Okay. Whereas school committee members have been provided with a copy of the cost center transfer and transaction summary report and the warrant for review, I move that the Plymouth School Committee accept and approve the reports and accounts payable warrant number S062118 dated June 21st, 2018 in the amount of $1,886,783.29 as presented.
Ms. Burgess is the second. Any questions on the accounts payable? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you, that's unanimous.
Dr. Sorensen?
Yes?
Quick question. Mr. Costin, do you have a time frame for when we need to sign the warrant, or we don't need to sign anymore, right? Or
Just him.
Just sign them, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I know in
It's
past
easy.
summers, there's been scrambling to get enough signatures and whatnot.
We
So-
do have a schedule, and we've shared it with the chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have minutes. Let's start with April the 2nd. Ms. Badger.
I move that we approve April 2nd minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve April 2nd. Is there a second? Ms. Hunt is the second. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. And now April the 7th.
I can move that we.
Ms. Burgess moves the minutes of April the 7th. Is there a second to that? Ms. Hunt is the second. Is there any questions on April the 7th? Okay, those voting in favor? We have 1, 2, abstentions?
Abstain.
So according to like the revised resolutions, you
There are 2 I'm not hearing you.
all I'm clarifying is that whoever wrote the minutes are clear in writing the minutes. I don't know.
It's your choice.
It's my choice.
Yeah.
Whether or not
You
you
can yes
abstain or
or
not.
abstain.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
even if
Oh,
I
all right.
wasn't.
Yeah. Just choice.
Yes.
Okay.
We always, we just, but if it's new and, if it's a new,
I can abstain.
no, it's up
I
to
mean,
you. It's up
I
to
just,
you.
I had to look that up
Yeah.
to clarify for
Yeah.
myself. Yeah. But
Okay, so we have 4 voting in favor, 1, 2, 3, 4. And do we have 2 abstentions? You're an abstention,
Yes.
I understand.
and you're an abstention.
Yeah.
Did you get that? Thank you.
'Cause I just
And now,
didn't get this.
April the 23rd. Miss, nope,
Sorry.
Ms.
I
Hunt.
can move that the minutes of the April 23rd school committee meeting be accepted and approved as presented.
Okay. Mrs. Burgess is the second on April 23rd. Is there a question, Ms. Badger?
Page 6, unless it's been fixed since I saw it, there's Mr. XXX, so is that done intentionally to leave the name of
Yeah, I saw that too.
the, or,
On,
Oh, yeah.
I had given a building committee report, and I referenced the new town facilities coordinator, whose name is escaping me at this
Wayne
moment. Wayne something or other.
Yes, Wayne.
And
Wayne.
It's Wayne.
we have X's on it, and we should have his name in that spot.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can research.
Okay.
I know it's Wayne. I don't know his last name. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay.
I just read it and I was like, Mr. XX.
I can look it up right now.
I know, I was like, witness protection?
Yeah, and I totally forgot about
Yeah,
that
you all
as
saw
well. I was
that,
like,
yeah.
what?
Okay. And anything else on April the 23rd? Okay, so those voting in favor? We have 4 voting in favor, we have 1 abstention. Mrs. Hayward is the abstention. She's not the extension, she's the abstention. Okay, we have some obsolete equipment. Dr. Mastis.
Yes, tonight we have 3 items, 3 different schools that have obsolete equipment. We're going to start with Hedge Elementary School. And Hedge Elementary School is looking to remove, because of this machine being non-operational, it's a copier. And in order for the Plymouth schools to remove a copier, it's got to be on non-operational, because we use them till they don't work anymore. So this is just not operational. I firmly believe that. So I recommend.
Okay, on the Hedge School copier, obsolete equipment, yes or no, committee members?
No.
Ms. Burgess moves it. Second, Mrs. Badger. Question? All those in favor? That's unanimous?
Yes, the next item is Plymouth South High School, and this is that's from the vocational school. We actually brought over a broiler from the old school, and it is something they probably shouldn't have brought over. We probably should have auctioned it, but it's really hard to tell people to get rid of things. But they kept it, and now they want to get rid of it. So this is something that they don't use. It's a broiler. It's older than we would use in the school. So this is something we want to get rid of.
Ms. Badger.
I move that we approve the discard of of the old broiler.
Mr. Morgan is the second. Any question on that? Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
And the last
Some vehicles.
is 3 vehicles. We have 3 vehicles, a Chevy Impala, which is actually used for our school. He is our truant officer, our tenants officer. This summer will be the last summer that this vehicle will be used. It has about 180,000 miles on it, and it's really become to fix it, it's just not worth fixing. So he's going to actually use Arthur Montron's old vehicle, which will be in service for him to use beginning next school year. Has a lot less miles, probably about 70,000 less, but that's what he will use. The next item is a red Ford F-150 pickup, and I used to drive this back when I was technology coordinator, and it is in need of, it's pretty rusty and pretty beat. And the last item is a 2006 Ford F-350 utility, and this is one of our trucks that we use quite a bit for snow plowing, and it's just really rusty and really beat. So these 3 vehicles will go to the town, and they will auction them off or whatever the town does to get rid of these. I recommend disposal or removal of these from our fleet.
Ms. Burgess,
Yeah, I move that we get rid of those.
so you're moving to
Facilities.
turn these vehicles over to the town?
Yeah.
Right. seconded by Ms. Spat. Questions? Okay. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Is there any other business to come before the school committee this evening? Seeing no hands, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.